Okay, in this video, we are going to talk about some more intermediate features in Adobe InDesign. And for the project, we're going to create a, let's call this an interactive digital advertisement for a company. The company is for this particular assignment, I have to make up a company. I have to somehow make this a real project or appear to be a real project. And so I chose Columbia hiking boots. And the premise here is, let's say Columbia has asked us to come up with a interactive digital ad that would promote a new line of hiking boots, a new introduction of hiking boots that they have come out with. They would like this to be targeted to people that have bought boots from them before, and they have a database of customers that have purchased boots like this. And what they want to do is do an email blast and send out kind of a announcement of new products. And they want this to be interactive. They want it to be kind of dynamic and exciting rather than just a static email blast. And so we're going to create this in Adobe InDesign, and we're going to apply some animation and button trigger techniques that I'm going to show you in this tutorial. Let me jump over and show you what the final product is going to be, and then I'm going to go through kind of step by step and explain to you how it was built. Now, there are many parts and pieces to this project. I'm not going to go over each individual knockout. I mean, once I do it once, you'll understand how it works, and you'll understand how the other things. A lot of this is very repetitive, and when you're creating these things in InDesign, it is quite repetitive. Any kind of interactivity, buttons and things like that, always tend to be very repetitive. So let me share my screen here and get right to it. Okay, now I built this in InDesign, and I uploaded it or published it online, and then I took the link to that online project, and I emailed it to myself so that I can open it up. So this would be kind of what the audience would receive from Columbia. It would be a little bit more, the email would be a little more designed. You'd see maybe a photograph of this and the logo and all of that. You guys know what email blasts are. Anyway, you would click on this link. So I'm going to click on the link. And I'm going to go to Adobe's site. And this is the finished piece. What this is a series of 4 new products that they have introduced, and there's a large photo of the top view of each hiking boot. There's a side profile view here. There's a brief description of things about that particular boot. In this case, these are all the same for the sake of this demonstration. This is a title for the name of the product, the description, and then a buy now kind of button here, which takes you to their website so that you can purchase it from Columbia's website. This is kind of a mini website idea. Now, I didn't get into all of these other categories here, but if you would roll over these other categories, you would see something similar to this. And this, again, is all the interactive document. This is not the website. The website is, the idea is to drive you to the website so that you will purchase the product. And that's what this button will do here. But this is kind of acting like a mini website inside of an email blast, if you can wrap your head around that. Also, when you roll over these items, you'll see that they kind of dim out. And when you click on them, it swaps out the shoe here and description. So as you go through and click, these act as buttons, and you can see the 4 new products that Columbia is introducing. Okay, and then again, the target market of this is people that have already bought boots like this. Like I've bought like 3 pairs of these boots in the past. And they're good boots, and you know, I would be interested in any new line of products that they have to offer. So this is something that I might definitely be interested in. Now you go to buy now, and you can see how it fades out again. You know, it dims out. You click on this, and it takes you right to the Columbia website, where you can now see the product here, and you can see you know, the different other different versions of this and so forth. Okay, and then you can see the price, and you can pay for it here on their site. Okay, so that's the idea of this project. And so now it's, how do we create this? And let's go back to the beginning. And this is not a discussion really on design thinking in terms of how we would have created this. This is more of a production kind of video on how to create it in InDesign. But as far as the idea goes, as far as using a large boot and laying it out in this way, a lot of that has to do with your initial conferences and meetings with the client, kind of getting a feel for what it is they're looking for, what kind of look do they want, maybe doing some mood boards, what are called mood boards, to run past them in terms of feel and color and texture, and you know, and you can see in this idea here that there is kind of this wood plank feeling here, and then there's a background photo of this guy standing on a mountain top looking down at a lake. You know, it's this whole idea of this rustic kind of outdoorsy feel running in the background, kind of as ambiance, if you will, to the actual shoe. Now, why was that chosen? Well, that could be something that was chosen because of some things that you talked about with the client in terms of the look and the feel and all of that. And that's where creativity really comes in. That's where your creativity in interpreting what the client is looking for is. And okay, so let's go to the beginning, because we wouldn't see this. I mean, this hasn't been produced yet. And so where do we go from, you know, from here? How do we start? Get back to, okay. Designs usually start with information that you're getting from your client. You're talking to your client, you're you know, you're having, you know, very intimate discussions in terms of what it is they're looking for, what the goals of the project are. I always like to ask a client, what is the end result of this? In other words, once the audience sees this, what are they supposed to do? What do you expect from this particular piece that you're paying me lots of money to design? And, you know, typical answers are, you know, reasons are to drive people to the website to buy and purchase products, also to introduce them and to inform them of new things that, you know, we're creating. So it's not only informative, but then there's an end kind of monetary, you know, inducement or goal for all of this. Okay. So knowing that, we know what the what the products are. We know what specific products they want to introduce and inform people of. There are 4 shoes that are new, and they want us to use our artistic and graphic skills to come up with a layout and a look and to show them, what we're going to do. So my first way of starting all projects is to first really thoroughly grasp what the client is asking for, what their goals are, and then to look and see if there's anything that the competition has done that is similar to what they're asking for. And in this case, it may exist out there, or it may not. This might be something that's, kind of a new idea, this hybrid idea of, it's never been done before, we've never seen it before. So if you're in a position, a lucky enough position, to be able to design something from scratch, that's the designer's dream. However, it's very difficult when you have nothing to go by, when you're staring at kind of, let's say, the proverbial blank piece of paper syndrome, and you don't know where to start. Now, what I'm going to show you is a way to start. I'm not going to get into my brain in terms of how I came up with this, but maybe this will help you in kind of starting. And what we don't want to do is go right to the computer, open up a page, and then look and see like, wow, where do I begin? And start just bringing stuff in and moving stuff around and not having any idea of what you want to do, and hoping that the idea is going to suddenly magically present itself in front of you. We want a plan, just like anything. We want kind of a plan. So when you go from point A to point B, it's always good to plan out how you're going to get there. And, as opposed to just blindly getting in your car and driving north and hoping that you're going to find the place that you're looking for. No, we get out a map, we plan out stops or whatever, and we get there. Okay, and the same is true with design. Design should have a plan. So I would, sit with a pen and paper and do thumbnails. And this is where the drawing and the art part of, graphics comes into play. I know a lot of people want to be graphic designers because they're artists. They like to draw. Okay, here's your opportunity. Now, we're not talking about drawing really, finished things. If you can draw well, great. But if you can't draw all that well, that's okay, because it's really just the idea and the layout that you're trying to get a feel for. I've got my phone hooked up to my setup here. I got all kind of things going on my desk, and I'm going to jump to that real quick. And I'm going to, I just have a blank piece of paper right here and a ballpoint pen. And that's really all you need to kind of start a design idea. Okay, now we're going to kind of forget that we saw that finished thing, because that doesn't exist. Okay, we're starting from scratch. We just talked to the client, and now we're going to come up with something. Now, things like size and format, the amount of products, the pictures, those kind of things, we already know what we have to deal with. Okay, it's not like we have to go out and, let's say, photograph all the shoes, although maybe you might have to. But we have information and we have the products. Now it's just a matter of what are we going to do with them? How are we going to make this look? And so I might go online and look at as many shoe ads as possible and just kind of hopefully try and get some inspiration and some ideas. But I do know that the size of the piece is going to be to fit a computer monitor, which is usually about 1920 by 1080. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a sketch, a format. And like I said, I'm not going to go into my brain and, try and extract how I came up with this layout. I've seen lots of layouts in my career, and the more that you're exposed to, the more that you see, the more ideas you get in terms of where things should go, what size they should be, what the feel is. Anyway, I had this idea of a big focal point. Okay, and a focal point in design, when you talk about design layout, is very important. A focal point is something where your eye goes to first. And in this case, that big top-down shoe is what, people saw first when that came out. And it was animated. It kind of came out like, from nothing. So that was my idea. And it was kind of at first to put it right in the middle of the page. So, I'm not really great at drawing shoes, but let's say here is my shoe, okay, and it had laces to it, big top down photo of a shoe, and then little shoes over here, okay, and I'll just represent that by these little blobs of things. Okay. Like I said, it's not about what you're drawing. It's about layout. It's like where things are going to go. Now, you still want to concern yourself with negative space, with white space, and the airiness of it. There's going to be some text here for each shoe, maybe a little rule that separates each shoe. Okay. And then some other text here. And I'm just representing that text with, just little lines like that. I don't know if you can see that. I'll bring that up close here. Okay. And then on this side, we're going to have the name of the shoe. And it's called the Newton Ridge +2. And as I'm just kind of squiggling these lines and headlines, I'm also kind of thinking of typography. What kind of type is it going to be? What is the feel of this whole thing? I was thinking of a very condensed typeface that says Newton Ridge +2. And it's interesting how as you're drawing and as you're sketching, ideas start coming into your mind, like, typefaces and layout, centered versus flush left. You just put something down and see if it feels right. Okay. And sometimes it does. And sometimes you go, I don't like that, and move on to another idea. I've done that many times where I'll start something and then I'll just exit out and go, I don't like that. Okay. And tapi some text here. Okay. So we have the name of the shoe here. We have a big shoe right here. But I want something else, so my idea is that you click on these little shoe profiles and it pops open the big shoe down view. Okay. Click on that, click on this. Now, when and a little buy now, kind of little bubble right here underneath here that says buy now, and you click on that and it takes you to the website. I might even, put notes out here, to website. Okay. I might say, heading. Okay. Large shoe photo. Okay. These are just kind of my thoughts and my ideas. And then, small profile shoes, and these become the buttons that you click to activate the different shoes and so forth. And so now I'm also thinking, like, what else can I do to this? Well, I thought about the idea of hiking boots and outdoor, and this idea of being rustic, inside of a cabin in the mountains, and, wood floors. And so my thought was, what if I took a photo, like a stock photo of wood planks, and maybe they were very faint in the background, like standing on a wood floor. Okay. And so I'm just kind of like drawing these wood planks. You'll see what I mean in a sec, what's going through my mind here. And then behind that is maybe a mountain range, and and maybe, someone standing on a mountain range, very faint in the background, kind of like background, a background feel. So we've got this wood floor superimposed on top of a mountain photograph scene with a big shoe in the front and a name here and so forth. And so if I pop right back to my, if I pop right back to the, let me go back here, you can see that here is the wood planks right here. And here is the mountain scene. There's a guy actually standing here. And it's all in black and white. You can see the clouds up here. And this is the way it actually came out. Okay, now when I was doing these little thumbnails, I had no idea that it was going to look like that. Okay, and that's the cool part of creativity, is that you start with an idea and you build on it, and it could come out many different ways. I mean, it could have looked many different ways, but that's kind of what I'm going for. So what I'm trying to say is that this is the roadmap. This is the thumbnail. Now, another thing I might do is try something else. I might try a whole different idea. What if the big shoe was like way in the corner here, Here's the laces, and here's the inside of the shoe, and maybe it bleeds off the bottom and it's over in the corner. And maybe these little shoes are down here, with some text here. Maybe behind this is a big lifestyle photograph, of mountains and, things going on there. And you click on these and this swaps out. Okay, maybe it looks like that. Maybe this background is entirely different. Maybe there's a drop shadow here on this photo, drop shadow on the sides of the shoes here. So this could be another idea that could be a possibility, and I might build several. Another thing that you might also do is build an idea for a mobile phone where it's very vertical, so that when people see it on a phone, the images are big enough where they can see it. Sometimes if you do a horizontal layout and you open it up on a mobile phone, especially in InDesign, in this way that we're doing it, we're not talking about, CSS or designing like a website, which automatically formats your horizontal layout into a vertical layout for a mobile device. We're talking about, what you design is the way it's going to come out. So, okay. So we start with this thumbnail idea, and I'm going to go with this version right there. Okay. Do we show clients thumbnails? Sometimes we might. If a client is very visual, if they can interpret things from a basic thumbnail, then we might, anytime you can get the client to approve things before you put the time into building it is a good thing. Okay, but I don't like to show clients thumbnails a lot of times because they just can't visualize what it's going to be. They can't possibly know that this is what it's going to look like when you show them, this right here. And so, in that sense, I'm going to say, for the most part, no, we don't do that. Okay, let me go back here and go to the next step. So once we have kind of a thumbnail, or kind of a roadmap of where we're going to go, now we're going to start doing what we call information gathering. Information gathering is collecting all of the things that we need to put this together. And if we look at this, you can pretty much just point out all of the things that you will need to do. I need a background photo of some guy standing on a mountaintop. I need a picture of the floorboards, you know, the wood plank floorboards. I need a picture of each shoe, each top-down shoe, right? Because we're going to use 4 different shoes. I'm going to need a photo of each profile of each shoe. Okay, so a top-down and a profile. And I'm writing this down on a piece of paper. I'm writing the list of things that I'm going to need to gather to put this together. I'm going to need copy. What is the copy going to say? What is the description going to be? I know it says Newton Ridge +2. I know the name of the shoe. This one's Cordovan Squash. This one is light brown velvet. Okay, the client's supplying me with that information. But what is the other information here? Where does this information come from, or this description here? Okay, most of the time clients are going to supply you with that as well. So there's a lot of things that we need to get before we even start on this, building this idea. And the most efficient way to get any job done in graphic design is to get all of your information and elements, put them in folders, organize them in a file, and then start building. Okay, so if we go back to my folder here, I want to show you my folder, and it's inside current assignments under Newton Ridge. Okay, and in my Newton Ridge folder, I have my background photo. This is the wood plank photo, and I got this from the Google. Okay, so for this assignment, you can grab anything you want from Google Images. These are all the boot photos. Here's the profile and the top-down version. The profile, the top-down version. Profile, top-down version. Now, when I was creating this example here, I also grabbed and worked on some other versions. I didn't use this one, and I didn't use the white one, but I used the brown, the elk, the Cordovan, and the black. Okay, those 4. But I got these images from Columbia's website. Now, I had to take them into Photoshop, and I had to knock out the backgrounds, and I had to save them out as PNGs, and I put them in a little folder called Boot Photos. Okay, so I have everything that I need as far as the shoes are concerned to create this. Then I searched around for a photo, and I found this photo, and I thought maybe I'll combine this photo and put this photo on top of it and superimpose the two to get this kind of black and whitish look. Now, in order to create the black and white look, I had to take that photo into Photoshop because it existed in color. I had to take this into Photoshop and turn this into black and white, which is very easy. Okay, this was already black. It had a kind of a spotlight highlight in the center, which is kind of what I was going for. I kind of wanted some kind of lighter idea here. I could have used a brush and brightened that up a little bit more in Photoshop, but I let it go. And what is this? Oh, this is the Columbia logo, which I didn't use, but I downloaded one anyway, just in case I might use it. The reason I didn't use it is because it says it right here in the inside of the shoe. So I didn't feel that I needed to put it down here. If we didn't see this logo, then I would definitely have to put the Columbia logo down here somewhere, and so people know that that's the brand. Okay, so once I have all of these elements here, then it's a matter of going in and putting this all together, and want to take you through that madness and show you how that happen. Now, what I did is I created, and you don't really have to do this. Actually, when I say you don't have to do this, this is leading up to an assignment that you're going to do that is going to be very similar to this, and I'll explain this when I get into class and talk to you guys in person. But this is going to be an assignment that you kind of emulate. It'll be a little bit different, but for the most part, the idea is to teach you how to use buttons, how to make buttons out of objects, and trigger certain actions to happen, and how to create an object state. Okay, we'll get into that later, but for now. Okay, so I created this in Photoshop actually first. And sorry, I just got rid of that here. And let me go back to this folder and let's see if I have my Photoshop version here. Oops. Yes, right here, the Newton Ridge PSD. Okay, I created this in InDesign because I needed to apply the animation. You can't do animation and button triggers and all that in Photoshop. But I did start in Photoshop, so I'm going to open up this Photoshop file here. So here is the Photoshop file, and you can see, you know, how many layers of things this is to create this. In fact, in my Photoshop file, I actually used the white shoe. But I ultimately didn't like the white shoe. Okay, so these are the layers, the black shark layer with the text, okay, right there. That's the text. And I put these all into individual folders. And you can see all of that and how all this works. And if I go down the line, you can see this is the buy now text and so forth. So I kind of composed this in Photoshop first, just to kind of give me an idea of what it was going to look like. And then I brought the background, the wood plank background and this faint photo into InDesign, and I built everything else in InDesign. All the text I built from scratch in InDesign. All of the photos I brought into InDesign individually. So the only thing that I brought into InDesign was this background of wood planks and the photo. So I'm going to go down to where that is, and I'm going to turn off everything but that. Okay, that is the wood plank photo that I started with, and then I took the other photo, that photo, and you see how it's in color? Okay, let me turn this off. And it's also faded back. The opacity of this is faded back. You can see if I click on this photo, it's only 17% opaque. Okay, if I bring up the opacity, there's the full color photo right there. Okay, but I'm going to take it back to 17%. I also have a levels adjustment layer attached to this that makes it black and white. Okay, this layer right here is what's called a levels adjustment, and that turned this into black and white. It's another technique in Photoshop that if you need to find out how to do this, I'll be happy to show you. And then we have a black background. Just go down here. Okay, I turned off the background. And here is the levels adjustment that made that kind of black and white. You can see that there. Right there. Okay, so that's color. I don't know if you can see that. And that's black and white. Okay, this is what I exported out. Okay, I exported this out as I think like a quick PNG, quick export PNG. And I brought this image into InDesign. And then I built everything else in InDesign. I'm going to close out Photoshop for a sec. And now let's open up the InDesign version of this. Okay. So this is the InDesign version of this. And again, in InDesign, I have this in a number of layers. I have the typography layer, which is all the text, images, which are all of the photos, the background, which is this black, photo that I brought in from Photoshop. So if I turn this visibility off, you can see that's what the background is. And then this canvas is actually this gray background here. Okay, because normally this is the page size. This is the actual page size of InDesign. And this is the idea, the size of the graphic that sits within the page size. Okay, so that this is not the page size here. This is the page size up here. Turn that on and made it gray so that I can do a little drop shadow on this. It just makes the presentation look a little nicer. Okay, all of the typography, if I click the visibility off, goes away. Okay, and then all of the images go away when I click off images. So you can see how what things are on what layer in InDesign. Okay, remember in InDesign you can have multiple things on the same layer. In Photoshop it's different. Photoshop you got to have individual layers for everything. That type, that thing. Okay. So I started with opening up a document that this whole background here, this gray area right here, if you look at the document setup here, the document setup was set up at 1920 by 1080 pixels. And the reason I did pixels is because I know that this is going to be seen on a computer monitor. So we deal in pixels, and 1920 by 1080 is standard high definition proportions. So that's what I used for that. But the image itself, the background image, was not, okay, that image right there was not 1920 by 1080. So it's smaller. Okay, now before I bring in all of these elements and start making what's called an object state out of them, I had to knock them out in Photoshop. And so I'm just going to go through one and then you'll know how to do the others. And I think you probably already know how to do this, but I'm just going to do this anyway, just to show you what I did. Okay, just so that you can follow it. I'm going to put this away for now. And I'm going to go up to where I got the original photos, and that was from the Columbia website. And if you go on the Columbia website and you click on this, one of these shoes here, you can see that they have all these views here. And if I just kind of go down here, I've got the profile view, I've got a 3/4 view, a top-down view, bottom view, so forth. I also have different profile views, one going to the left, one going to the right. So I use the one going to the left, that profile view, and then the top-down view. Okay, that view I downloaded, and then that view I downloaded. Okay, so let's take the, well, we could take the, now the side view here, this profile view has the shadow here, okay? And you notice it's on a background that's not completely white, so we're gonna have to knock this out. So the first thing I did was I went to every single shoe that I needed, Okay, and up here you can click on that shoe and then click on that shoe and so forth. I got all the 4 shoes that I needed, plus more, some that I didn't use. And then I just simply on a Mac, I control clicked, control, and then let me use the right one here, this side view here. Control click and hold, and it says save image as. Okay, so I'm going to save this image onto the desktop and save it. Okay, and there's my image. Okay, so I got all of those images. I went through every single shoe and I downloaded every top view and every side view. And then I brought them all into Photoshop. Now again, do all of your things at once. Don't do this one at a time. Don't bring this in and then knock it out and then go back to the internet and download another one and knock it out. Grab them all and have them all lined up on your desktop if you want, and then select them all, drag them into Photoshop, and it'll be, you know, bing, 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 bing. You'll see all of the layer, you know, all of the individual photos here, and then you can go in and do all of your work at once. That's the fastest way to do it. When I worked for my first designer, he told me speed is not how fast you work, not how fast you're moving your hands or you're walking from here to there. Speed is all up here, how you think. If you think efficiently, you'll be fast. And speed is definitely a virtue that you must have in being a graphic designer. Okay, so I'm going to grab this and I'm going to bring it into Photoshop. Okay, so here's my image. And now I'm just going to simply knock out the background. Okay, now there's a couple ways I could do that. Number one, I'm going to double click on the background and click OK to make it a fully editable layer. And I'm going to grab the magic wand tool over here, the 4th tool down. And there's a couple ways, again, I can do this. I can click on the white, okay, and see how it selects everything. It selects all the white, what it thinks is white. Okay, so everything is selected. And then I can hit my delete key on the keyboard and delete the background. And you can see the checkerboard is now transparent. Okay, but it caught the shadow right here. Okay, and it didn't catch this part in here. Okay, this is still white. And I don't want that. I just want the boot. I don't want the shadow, and I don't want this little piece in here. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go back in history. I'm going to open this up again. And instead of using the magic wand tool, okay, well, I'll still be on the magic wand tool. I'll try the select subject. And when I click select subject, now notice how it is trying to select what it thinks is just what I want, just the subject. Notice how it didn't grab the shadow down here, okay? But it kind of went up around here, okay? I mean, it went straight across. It didn't grab inside of here. Now, there's a little trick you can do in Photoshop. And first of all, I'm going to grab the background layer and make it a fully editable layer. And I'm going to zoom in here. Now, I'm going to grab the lasso tool here, over here, the lasso tool, 3rd tool down. And what I'm going to do is when you hold the shift key down, you see how it says plus? And when you hold the option key down, it says minus. Now, if you minus a selection, okay, what it's going to do is, okay, if I draw from the outside and I draw up around here, and this doesn't have to be perfect, okay, and I come all the way around in here, and then I make that, you see what it did? It minused that interior selection. Let me undo that, okay? This is the selection all the way out to here. We want to subtract from this selection. So we hold the Option key down and we start from the outside and come right up against this edge here. Okay. This is what you do when your selection isn't cooperating. Okay. When you need to alter the selection. Okay. So I'm subtracting the selection, so now it's following exactly what I want. Okay, and that's what we can do. For the most part, okay, see this little area right there? It started picking up that shadow there. The reason is because it still thinks in terms of value that this is still part of the subject that you want, the select subject. Select subject is simply the artificial intelligence kind of trying to figure out what it is it thinks the subject is that you want. I'm going to hold down the Option key again, and I'm going to come up, start from the outside, and come up just up in here, and then just connect here. And watch what happens to that selection. See how it tightens it up in here? And for the most part, it does a really good job, select subject, in determining what it is you want. Okay, I'm going to do Command 0 and back out of this. Okay, so now what I have here is I have the entire shoe selected, but it's not the shoe I want to delete, it's the background. So I have to inverse the selection, do the opposite of selecting the shoe. What I want to do is select the background. So that's really simple, and in InDesign you would just simply go up to Select and go to Inverse. Okay, shortcut key is Shift Command I for inverse if you want to do that, or you can select it here. I'll just use the layer, the select menu here. Click Inverse, and notice how it selects the outer part of the photo and the shoe, and it's going to delete everything but the shoe, everything but what's inside of this selection. Okay, I hit delete, and there you go. Okay, and this is all now selected, no whites in between. I'm going to deselect the shoe, Command D, and that takes away the marching ants. And then I'm going to come up and crop it because we don't need all of this space around it. So I'm going to get on my cropping tool, the center. I'm going to bring that down pretty tight, bring this up, bring this over a little bit, and something like that. Then hit the return key, and that's my knocked out shoe. We know it's no background to it now, because if I click and move this, you can see how it freely moves around, and I can place this on any background now. Okay, and the background will show. Okay, it's not going to be a white background anymore. Once I have this, I'm going to go up to File and export this out as a quick export. You might want to name this now. I'll name this, whatever, anything that you'll remember. I named it the name of the shoe. I think it was called Graphite. Graphite boot profile. Okay. Remember, I'm going to have a profile and a top view. And I'm going to save this to the desktop for now, so I'll just save. Okay. There's my Graphite boot profile. Okay. Now, this was the original that I downloaded from the internet, from Columbia's site. Okay. You can see how the extension is WEBP, web page. This I don't need. Okay. It's very easy to start having a lot of the same things. It's kind of hard to know which one is which. So at this point, what I might do is maybe make a separate folder for these so they don't get confused with this, and put this in my main folder and so forth. Okay, let me do one more. I'm going to do the top. Okay, this version here. Okay, I'm going to download this again, Control, click, and save image as. Don't care what the name of it is at this point because I'm going to knock it out and rename it something else. So I'll save this to the desktop. Again, web page, right? These are the same right here. And then I'm going to grab this one and bring it into Photoshop. Okay, I'm going to do this quick, do a quick changing this to an editable layer. I'm going to do the same thing with my magic wand tool, and I'm going to go up to select subject. This one's going to be a little bit easier. See how it automatically selected everything around this subject. Then I'll do inverse. Okay, I'll use the shortcut key this time, Command-Shift-I. Okay, and you can see the marching ants going all the way around. Then I'll hit delete. Delete everything. I'll grab my crop tool and I'll come in and crop this down. Okay, and hit my return key. And by the way, throughout this video, you're welcome to put it up at 2x speed. You're welcome to fast forward through this. You know, I talk kind of slow, but I want to be thorough and just kind of show you every step. Once I have this, I'm going to go to File, Export, Quick Export again. And then this time I'm going to name this Graphite Top. Just Graphite Top is fine. I'll save it to the desktop. Okay. And there it is. Okay. I don't know what that is here. Huh. Don't know what that is. Okay. So these are my two right here. These are the two that I'm going to actually bring into InDesign. Okay, these are the ones came from the website. Don't really need these, but I don't want to throw them away quite yet, just in case I need to go back to these and redo something. Yeah, that's another thing. Don't be too quick to throw things away, but separate them out so that they don't get confusing to you. Okay, next thing is, okay, now we're going to assume that you've done this to all 4 versions of the shoes that the client wants. I'm going to just hide this for now, and I will hide this for now. Now, again, you're going to create a folder and put this in your ThawSpace, and I made a folder called Boot Photos. Okay, and these are all my boot photos. You can see the profile and top, profile and top. Okay, and this is where they should live on your hard drive, in your ThawSpace, before you start this InDesign project. Because if you start bringing them in from the desktop and then move them into a folder afterwards, you're going to break links in InDesign. We talked about that before. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that everything is put away in the right folder in your ThawSpace before we start an InDesign document. Okay, let's go back to InDesign now. And let's kind of take a look and see what's happening here. Okay, the original file that was opened was a file that was, like I showed you, go to user or document setup. You can see it was a 1920 by 1080 document. Okay, the margins I just kind of left at whatever the default is. And it was just 1 page. Okay, and I clicked OK, open that up. Okay, and I got this, basically I got a document that looked like this. And what I did was I created my layers here, and I selected this background. I selected the background, oops, the background canvas. I clicked on it, and I colored it this gray. Okay, and I think my swatches panel is here somewhere. Yeah, canvas background. I chose a color and I saved it to my swatches and I labeled it canvas background. You know how to do that. And you can also see that I found the colors of the shoes as well. And I did this through sampling with the eyedropper tool. That's how I got these colors here. Talk about that in a sec. Okay, let's go back to the pages. I'm sorry, the layers, and I'm going to turn everything back on, lock these two. Okay, then I drew my actual background, which was that right there. Actually, what I did was from Photoshop, I saved out this, and this became my background. So if I go back to Photoshop real quick, okay. Remember, this is what I exported. Okay, and so what I did is I turned off all the layers. Okay, now all you have to do is just kind of build this. You know, all you would do is build this in Photoshop, turn off all the other layers that you don't want to print, and then I'm going to go to File and Export as a quick PNG, and I can call this, you know, background. And I can save this to the desktop, go ahead and save. Okay, now that I'm in InDesign, in fact, let's start this. I'm going to go to File and create a new document. So let's just start it. And you see you have these things up here when you're creating new documents. Under Web, okay, there should be a 1920 by 1080 document. Not sure, but there should be. Should be standard for the web. But anyway, I'll just plug it in here. 1920 by 1080. Oops. Okay. I'll leave everything the same, and I'll click one page, no facing pages, click create, and there is that page. Let me make this a little bit smaller here, and I'll hide Photoshop for now. Okay, so here's my InDesign page. Here's what I'm starting with. And now that I have my background, okay, and that background should be here somewhere. Oh, you know what? Did I save that to the desktop? Sorry about that. When I exported it, I thought I exported it. It's a quick export. To the desktop. I called it background, right? Oh, spelled it wrong anyway. Okay, yeah, you know what? It must be up here. It's hidden. There it is, background. Okay, let me get rid of that. Command delete. Okay, here's my background. Let me pull that down here so we can see it. Hide this now. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's my background right here. Okay, so I'm going to bring this background in, and it wasn't as big as the canvas size. So I'm going to do something like this. And there's my background. Now my canvas size, if I look on my layers here, okay, I need to make my layers. So you're going to make your layers. And I named one, I usually name the top typography. And Okay. And the second layer right here was images. My third layer usually says background. And my last layer is going to be canvas. And canvas is going to be this big white area back here. Okay, so this area back here is going to be the canvas. This is going to be the background. So I'm going to click on this background and move it up to the background layer. Let me just lock that background layer and get another, target my canvas layer, get a rectangle, draw a box to fill my background layer or my canvas layer, and then I will make this with my swatches. I will fill this with let's just say for now black and maybe a gray. Okay, 75% gray is fine. And there we go. And I will hit my W key and lock my canvas layer now and move this around until this is centered. There and there. Okay. All right. So this is the basic format of all of this. So you can see if I turned off these, that's what I have going now. Kind of the same thing. This is a little bit bigger, but you get the point. So now what I need to do is I need to bring in my images, and then I'll set all the type. And once I set the type, and you can see that this text and this rule are the same on the type layer. Okay, so the next step is now to bring in your images, and that you will do by clicking and dragging these images in one by one. And or actually you can grab all of the images and just place them all at the same time. Let me open up a blank page here just so that you can see. Okay. Now that we have the the background placed, what I've done is imported all the shoes, and I've imported all of the profile shoes that will act as the buttons. And then I also set some text, and this text would represent this text right here. How each shoe will have its corresponding text. So now let's put this together and see how it all works. Okay, the first thing we have to do is we have to create object states. And an object state is just simply stacking these photos on top of each other so that when you press the button, it triggers the appropriate photo. Now we know the photos are going to be animated. They're going to have this 2D animation happening where it kind of grows out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these photos here before I stack them up. I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to go up to animation, and I'm going to give them all, well, let's see. I'm going to start, I guess I have to do this one at a time. So I'm going to start with the black shark, and I'm going to choose an animation, and the animation is going to be a zoom in 2D. Okay, I'll choose the Matter Brown, and I will give that an animation of zoom in 2D. I'll choose the Cordovan, give that an animation, zoom in 2D. And the last one is elk, and I will give that an animation of zoom in 2D. Okay, so now all of these photos have an animation applied to them. Now I'm going to stack them all on top of each other, and create an object state. So I'll start with, it doesn't really matter what you do, which one you start with, but I'll put see, I'll just kind of move this over until that aligns with that. That's good. I'll click on this version here and kind of move that in so that aligns with that. And then I'll move the elk over and kind of move that in. Okay, so they're now fairly, yeah, I lined up all the toes here. They're all kind of stacked together. And now I'm going to select all of them and create an object state. So I'm going to go over to my object states panel, which is right here. And I'm going to create an object state, a multi-state object. I'm going to call this boots top. And I will label my boots. Let's see, it all depends on what I want first. So let me put the black one up first. And then the second one will be the elk. Third one will be madder brown, and the fourth one will be Cordovan. Okay, so I'll just name these black, elk, madder brown, and Cordovan. Okay, so I have my object state here. It's called boots top. I'll put this over here. Now I'm going to take my 4 descriptions and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stack these on top of each other. So I'll grab this and put that on top, bring that on top, and bring that on top. Okay, so I have my 4 descriptions all on top of each other. I will select them all and go up to object states and create an object state out of all of these. And I want the black to be first. So I believe black is first. Okay. Second one is going to be elk. Put that there. Third one madder brown, and the last one Cordovan. So I'll do the same thing with these. I'll name these black text. This one's going to be elk text. This one's going to be madder brown text. And this one will be Cordovan text. And I'm going to name the multi-state object. Oh, shoot. See if I can get this open again. For some reason, it's crashing when I click that multi-state object. Oh, crap. Okay, and now I'm going to take the this text and arrange this as black elk, madder brown, and Cordovan. I'm going to call this boot text, and call this black text, elk text, matter brown text, and last but not least, Cordovan text. Okay, so I have two object states now. One object state is called boots top, and the other object state is called boots text. Okay, now all of these boots will have animations applied, which is the 2D animations. So if we go to our object states and we select each shoe, we can see that each shoe should have that animation applied to it. Okay, matter brown, double click. Yes, it does, and so forth. Okay. All right. So now let's move this over here. We have our text right here. Oops. Let's move all of this over here. Okay. Now we have our 4 buttons off to the side here. And again, there'll be text here when we add the text. But I'm not going to show that because you know how to add text. That's the easy part. Okay, so now we want to make these into buttons that trigger the appropriate shoe. So I'm just going to order these in the way that they're ordered. In the object states, we have the black, we have elk, we have matter brown underneath that, and then we have Cordovan underneath that. And we'll put those right there. Okay. The black shoe we'll select, and we will go to our buttons, and we will make this a button. Okay, so we're going to select the black. We're going to click on it, make it a button. We'll call this button black. And the rollover of this, well, the action of this is going to go to state. Okay, so we'll have it go to the state. We're going to have it go to the boots top, and we're going to have it trigger the black shoe. Okay. Then we're going to roll over, and when we click the rollover, we're going to double click into this, drive into this black shoe, open up properties, and we're going to give it 50% opacity, something like that. You can see how dim it gets. We'll go back to our buttons and forms, and we'll click on normal. So we see normal is solid, rollover is 50%. And the action is going to trigger this animated black shoe, but also we want to trigger the black text. Okay, so the other action is going to go to state, and it's going to trigger the black text this time. So it's triggering the top black shoe and the black text. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next one is going to be the elk. Okay, we'll double click on the elk, or we'll make the elk a button. So it's going to be a button. We're going to give it the action. We'll name this button elk. We're going to give it the action of going to a state. The state we want it to go to is the boots top. We want the elk. Okay? We want it to go to the elk top shoe. The rollover, We're going to double click into this, open up properties, draw this back to 50%. Okay, so it's light. Go back to our boots and forms and click back normal, rollover, normal. And then the next thing we want it to do is trigger, go to state, and trigger the boot text, elk text. Okay. Let's test this out now. So here's our black shoe. Okay, we roll over it. The black text is out. Here is our elk. When we click on this, the elk shoe should come out and the elk text should switch out there, which it does. Back to black, back to elk. Okay. And then the last two things would be to just program Matter Brown and to program the Cordovan. Okay, we can do that real quick. We can select the Matter Brown. A lot of this, again, is repetitive. We're going to name this Matter Brown. The action is going to be to go to the state. The state we want it to go to is the boots top, only this time Matter Brown. We want the rollover. Double click into this to drive into properties. Take this back to 50%. Go back to boots and forms. Give it also the go to state. This time we want it to go to the boots text and Matter Brown text over here. And then the last one would be Cordovan. We're going to give that, make that a button. We're going to name this Cordovan. We're going to give it the action of go to state. We want it to go to boots top. Okay, Cordovan. Might as well give it the action as well here. The second action, go to state, boots text, only this time Cordovan text. Give it the rollover, double click, go into properties, give it 50%. Okay, so normal, rollover, back to normal. Okay, everything should be set, so let's try it out. We have our black, we have our Cordovan, or our elk, we have our Matter Brown, changes text, and we have our Cordovan, which comes out. So whatever you choose happens. And that's how this is done. Okay, different styling with the text and so forth. Okay, so that is basically the way that that's done. I know this was a long tutorial, but I'm going to give you an assignment to be using buttons and triggering buttons and doing opacity changes with your button. It might be shoes. I'm not sure. But anyway, I will see you in class and I'll let you know what the assignment is going to be. Okay? Check you later.